Adrian Fahrenheit Tepes here, and this is another volume of Whatever Happened to the Game, a podcast that running on either Wednesdays or Thursdays each week, describing what happened to your favorite video game franchises. The following is 3 episodes of recommended retro games, so games from the past, recommended, including recommendations for myself as well as a guest of mine, Albelio, on the show. So we're going to take a look at 3 episodes and nearly 2 hours of fun from this series. I hope you all have a wonderful time enjoying these episodes, and as it premieres, I hope you have a wonderful time reminiscing about the past and learning some things you may not have previously known about these favorite video game franchises. Without much further ado, let us begin.
All right, welcome to the newest episode of Whatever Happened to the Game. I am Adrian Fahrenheit Tepes.
And I'm Albelio.
Great. So we're going to get started. We have these recommended games for you today. These games should be available on GOG.com, Steam, or on the console online stores. So, for instance, we have one that should be available on Switch and another one that should have a version available on just pretty much every major console store. So without too much further ado, we're also going to say we recommend StreamYard. This is how we've been doing these live stream chats so far. There's a lot you can do just for a basic membership getting started. And there's the link to StreamYard in the description. So should be good. And this is our recent content. So, Albelio, how is the live streams on Fallout going for you?
Going pretty good. Making a bit more progress. I'm not entirely stuck for whole episodes inside of one city.
Well, yeah, it happens. There's a lot. The old Fallout games involve a lot of dialogue. In case you haven't noticed yet.
Yeah, definitely.
A lot of talking around to people. And which kind of leads into what I had recently. So I finally made the episode or video that I said I would on why Diablo isn't really a role-playing game. I'm not even saying this out of dislike for Diablo, because I do like similar games to Diablo, such as Castlevania Curse of Darkness or Lament of Innocence. But I'm just went over the thought of, okay, what makes an RPG and why Diablo doesn't really fulfill those qualities to the extent that, say, Fallout or Star Control does. Which, yeah, that's only one of our games that I'm going to be recommending. But first, we're going to proceed with what Albelio recommended, which should be pretty interesting. So it's up to you, Albelio, for Demon's Crest.
So Demon's Crest is one of those games that a lot of people just don't really remember all that much from the Super Nintendo era, because it was overshadowed by a lot of them, like Super Mario World, Donkey Kong Country, and though to a lesser extent even Super Metroid, which wasn't all that popular apparently. Demon's Crest.
I also see it's 1994, which is part of the later edge of Super NES before they started going into N64 and Sony PlayStation.
And yeah, it was definitely on the tail end of things. But it's one of those like really well detailed games. You've got wall clinging instead of just wall jumping, like what Samus would do in Super Metroid. Firebrand here will actually just latch onto walls, and he can even just straight up fly. Not there's different forms that you can get, because this is the third game in the Gargoyles Quest series.
Right. And I saw in the information about it that it was a spin-off of Ghosts and Goblins.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, shared universe, because it's so Ghosts and Goblins follows Arthur or whatever his name is, and
Right.
then Demon's Crest takes place in the demon realm, and you play Firebrand. And if you know Ghosts and Goblins, he's one of the Red Aramar, which is those really annoying demons from that series. Well, he's basically top dog, and in Demon's Crest, there's this like grand set of crests that all have different powers, you know, fire, air, time, heaven, and
Right.
all of the demons basically just wipe each other out trying to obtain these crests. And so you're not playing a game from the perspective of even an anti-hero. You're trying to get revenge basically on the demon king, I want to say, Phalanx. And then after he dispersed all of the crests, you basically go around to get all of them, kill anything in your way, and then take out Phalanx. Like you are not the hero. You are a demon.
So I tried playing it off the Switch store, and I didn't quite have the manual, so I didn't know all the lore you were telling me on Monday, because I was curious about it. It's like, okay, I missed a lot of what happened during Super NES. So I might as well try it on the Nintendo Switch, which I'm going to say this is on the Nintendo Switch Retro Games shop online. So that's how you can get it today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it has. So like the biggest thing about it, because I love exploration in games. I just like investigating worlds and whatnot. Demon's Crest does so. Demon's Crest has linear level design, obviously, but it has branching pathways. So the first level is pretty straightforward from A to B, but there are secrets in that, even in that first level. The second level and many onward have alternate paths that take you through entirely different areas, leading to completely different boss fights. So you can sequence break everything in this game pretty much in a, or maybe not to the same level as like Super Metroid, where you can get like you can use the wall jump to get like the super missile before you get Kraid, but you can get I would actually say you could probably get even further, because there's the Crest of Air, which allows you to basically fly, like control your movement while flying, whereas
like up or
Firebrand
down.
can basically just hover. Yeah,
Normally
basically.
you're just you're hovering right or left based on whatever you did the double jump at.
Exactly. So Firebrand can just basically kind of like hover, which is a fine balance, because if you could fly super early, you'd break the game. You can go all the way to that point of the game where you can get the Crest of Air, which is funny because you could just fly around the world anyway.
When I finished the first one, I was not sure where to go, because I could just, you fly to whatever destination you choose. So I tried the cemetery and I got wrecked.
That's one of the other cool things I appreciate is difficulty. I like difficulty in games. Dark Souls, old school games. I beat Ninja Gaiden as a kid.
Oh, the NES ones?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
So I'm all about difficulty, and this game, the first 2 or 3 hours, like the first game session that I put into it, because I never played this until way later on like the Wii store, because I never had it. And then I also went to the graveyard, and the dude with the scythe just wrecked me, and I didn't understand what to do with the fight. And then obviously later throughout the game, I figured everything out, because I still have an old Game Informer manual with like everything about the game.
Oh my!
So I was always infatuated as a kid, but I never got to play it, and the difficulty like helped solidify. I was like, I like this game.
Oh wow!
And then of course the art style is just fantastic. I obviously have an affinity for pixel art, in case nobody noticed. But I hold the art style of this game in a much higher regard than most games. Like I would put it up there with something like Super Metroid and Chrono Trigger.
It reminds me a lot of how you see things in Metroid, Upper 16-bit graphics.
Hmm.
Before
Yeah. Go ahead.
before they went to 32, at least on the Sega, they had the 32-bit upgrade, Sega 32X.
Hmm.
But not many people probably know about Sega nowadays. So yeah, it was pretty interesting from when I tried playing it using the Switch store, which I have the link right here on the slide, by the way. It's
Hmm.
Nintendo Switch online classic games. So next one is my one. It's Metal Gear Solid. It's when Metal Gear games became three-dimensional, started becoming three-dimensional. Late 1998. It's the third canonical game because there's also Snake Revenge, but Hideo Kojima has decided that Snake's Revenge, which is the third one, is not canon, but Metal Gear 1 and 2 are. And I'm just showing here, what they got the idea for Metal Gear Solid from, how they made Snake look like Kyle Reese, if you see in the lower right
Yeah, I
left
never
corner.
realized that. That's interesting.
Yeah, they got in trouble with with James Cameron briefly because it looks so much like Kyle Reese in
Yeah,
the
of course
cover of the
Cameron
game.
would. All right.
And I also
Escape from New York?
I recommend that movie for whoever has not watched it. It's Kurt Russell, Ernest Borgnine, and a few others. Oh, it also has Adrian Barbeau when she was young and kind of new to movies. She's also voiced Catwoman in the animated Batman television series as well. So that was an earlier film of hers. But yeah, it's a Kurt Russell movie. And what's interesting is the first person they asked to do the actual audio voice of Solid Snake in Metal Gear Solid was Kurt Russell, who played Snake Plissken in Escape from New York. But Kurt Russell has, and I'll have the link to the interview from GQ magazine, but it's on YouTube. But Kurt Russell just said he didn't want to do something that was a remake or derivative of the movies he was in. So he said no when it came to being the actual voice. They had David Hayter, and David Hayter's worked pretty well in the voice role of Solid Snake. He's become pretty iconic. So yeah, unlike the previous, I mean, it does mostly top-down graphics in Metal Gear Solid, but you can change to first person for various objects. So you can see beyond what you'd see in top-down mode by just using your binoculars or your infrared goggles to see ahead, which helps in a lot of cases where there's traps or where there's enemies lurking off what's viewable from the top-down view. So that's part of why it's considered actual 3D. Not to mention there are rooms where you can have multiple floors and people walking on multiple floors at the same time. So it's not the first Metal Gear game. It's the first time it became a 3D Metal Gear game. Ed,
Yeah, because the original was on NES, right?
it's on NES, but you got ripped off on NES. You don't know why?
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, it's the true. What's considered the true version was the MSX or Famicom floppy disk, because those are where you actually fight the battle mech called Metal Gear, the big walking spider thing, which is why they call it Metal Gear. But in the NES version, you get ripped off because you fight a huge computer console with lasers, which is lame compared to the actual battle mech, which is they got the name of the games for. So
Interesting.
yeah. So it's available on Steam. It's available on GOG.com. It's available on every major console, Xbox, PlayStation, or Switch, for the Metal Gear Remastered. They had a remake in 2004 on the Nintendo GameCube called the Twin Snakes. I still recommend playing the Metal Gear Solid in the Remastered collection, the one that would be the PlayStation version first, though, because it's a bit different when you're playing Twin Snakes as a remake compared to the original. So Twin Snakes has things the original doesn't, such as you can have a trank dart gun. You can open up secret items in lockers that you couldn't in the previous game. And The other one is that you can scope kill cameras and various objects with the pistol, which you couldn't in the first. So that could kind of take some difficulty out of it, but it's slightly changed, obviously, as a remake for the Nintendo GameCube.
So the remake for the first one is on the same sort of level as the elevation from the original Resident Evil to the remake.
Somewhat, yes. It's, I mean, graphically not so much, but you're talking, with things don't look so blocky like in the original PlayStation game. They're a lot more smooth, obviously, because of higher polygon counts, and you can actually see people moving their lips in the
nice
remake when they talk. The other thing that Metal Gear Solid was famous for is both the remake and the original Metal Gear Solid are the games that started where they show cinematics in the same engine as the actual gameplay. A lot of the time they've just used live action footage or stock footage in games before that, and it's a pioneer in terms of stealth games. So
how is the stealth in the game?
I mean, it's pretty good. Your difficulty level affects how easily you can get spotted. The funny thing is that in real life, military training exercises. So in Metal Gear Solid, you can hide underneath a cardboard box. And in real life, the actual Marines, for a training exercise, they outsmarted actual military surveillance drone operators by hiding under cardboard boxes. So that
really,
the surveillance drone operators didn't realize, oh, it's just a box. Well, no, it actually is. It's actually Marines in training who hid underneath cardboard boxes. So, yeah.
That's hilarious. What an obscure detail to add.
Right, but it was in Metal Gear Solid before they did the exercises, so it's a case of fact becoming stranger than fiction.
Oh, okay. That's even funnier.
So, yeah. What was that? It's on Steam. And the other thing is that, yeah, I mean, I didn't start out by actually playing Metal Gear Solid. I played Splinter Cell first, which is, somewhat similar, but it's less of a big map and more of just individual maps for certain areas in the Splinter Cell games. But it's a similar idea that you want to be sneaky, because if they spot you, they would overwhelm you with numbers if you set off an alarm. So it's the same idea. I later went looking for PS1 games that I may have missed, and I found Metal Gear Solid was one of the ones they recommended. So I wanted to see it isn't technically where it started, but it is a good jumping on point for the Metal Gear series. Because you get told what you need to know, and that's how it works. You get told enough of what you need to know when you play the game.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, my buddy loves the Metal Gear series.
Yeah.
I never got into it, is all.
It's all right. I mean, I got into it from other games, and I just wanted something that would be a little bit tricky and engaging, and so far it was. But yeah, I earlier did recorded video footage, but I've eventually figured that, after I'm doing Legend of Zelda in July, which I'm almost done with Link to the Past finally, I've got like Ganon Battle, I'll go to playing Metal Gear Solid live again.
Gotcha. I haven't kept up with things because I've been busy. Or did you get through the Tower of Hera or
Tower of Ganon? Yes.
Ganon's Tower? Yeah.
I was so close to dead after beating him in Aghanim form that I went back. So I'm going to be doing the last bit, which people can catch while it's live or after it's live today, because I was just so spent that I just didn't feel I could survive whatever the final battle with Ganon is.
Did you temper the Master Sword like I suggested?
Oh yeah, I did.
Okay.
That, and I got silver arrows.
The fourth sword?
Yes, it's on level 4.
Oh, you did get the yellow sword. Nice.
Yes, golden sword. Yeah, I finally did. Well, and I know we can say more. We're going to continue with your next recommendations coming up.
Okay.
Yeah. So Perfect Dark.
I could be here all day talking about this game.
Well, I'll remind you. We won't go too long on a tangent on this one.
I know. So at the peak of the 64 era, you had or rather just as the transition was ending from the 64 into the GameCube, Rare, which was at the time probably like the best game developers out there, maybe shy of like maybe someone like Blizzard because of StarCraft. Perfect Dark came out, and it was a spiritual successor to GoldenEye. And
Right.
this game blows GoldenEye out of the water. I know everybody's all like, oh, GoldenEye was so much. No, Perfect Dark is infinitely better. It takes place in the future, which actually is right about this time, I think. And you follow Joanna Dark. She is a badass top tier special agent for the Carrington Institute, and you go up against Datadyne, which is a corrupt weapons manufacturer. The stealth in this game is top notch, and I don't know if I have personally encountered a stealth system anywhere near as all encompassing because of all the details in this game. The silencers obviously do the cartoony, total silence of a weapon, but you can also use like just as an extra detail, like you could shoot out all the lights in the buildings and basically just render it impossible to see, and enemies can't see you or find you.
Which is a good follow-up from what I mentioned with Metal Gear Solid, because it's similar. You can turn out lights, or you can use EMP devices in MGS.
And this game has a great deal of equipment. So a lot of people have looked at games. I don't know specifically if Borderlands has a secondary feature in weapons, but I know that secondary feature has been around for a long time. Perfect Dark is basically the game that took that concept to its absolute maximum. You have, I think it's something like 100 it's like 75 or so individual weapons, and every weapon has a secondary fire.
Wow. That's crazy.
Are you looking up the weapons list?
Yeah, I am. I'll stop being distracted.
No, you're good. You're good, buddy. So, like there are so many different weapons and so many different tools that you have access to in the game. Everything from the Falcon 2, which is the basic pistol that Joanna is wielding right there.
Similar to the PP7 in GoldenEye, basically.
Yeah, basically. But instead of just shooting, you can also pistol whip. So there's a lethal and non-lethal option, all the way up to something like the laptop gun or the Farsight XR20. But like the laptop gun is just an automatic rifle, and its secondary fire is you fold it up into a sentry gun, toss it on the wall, and it automatically guns things down.
Wow, it sounds a lot like BioShock 2, where there's the I can't remember what it was in BioShock 2, but it's a similar idea. You can like throw mini turrets and they stick on walls. But
yeah, there's all kinds of detail. And of course, every level, as was the case with many 64 games like Mario or anything else, the environments are basically wide open to travel in. There are multiple paths and multiple options to achieve your goals in many cases. There are specific requirements for certain things. If you were to go to, like, for example, there's a mission in where you have to break open a wall and you have a crate that explodes. Right. You can destroy the crate early and it says, objective failed, abandon the mission, you lose. But it's not true, because you can use the Dragon, another assault rifle, automatic rifle, and its secondary fire is a proximity mine. So you can throw the gun down and shoot the gun, and it explodes and breaks open the wall.
Or you could take the traditional 3 options for approaching. You can take the stairs, take the ladder, or just jump off the building. All 3 get to the same location.
Yeah, basically. So you have a ton of natural exploration. You have cheat codes in the game or you have cheats in the game for if you beat certain missions under a time frame, so players are challenged to speed run the game within it, and the achievement is a cheat, which are hilarious. Everything from DK mode, which like triples
Big
the
head.
size of everybody's arms and heads, or
Yeah,
you can
so that's a refinement from what they did in GoldenEye, pretty much. You
yeah,
earned
basically.
by
So
being within a time limit.
yeah, so everything like a lot of the things that GoldenEye has, Perfect Dark basically cranks to 11. It's so in depth, it's so well detailed, and despite its age, it's still I still argue to this day that it is probably the best game on the 64. Although it does have one major issue outside of the controls, because the 64 was designed by a stoner. The
Yeah.
biggest issue with with Perfect Dark is that not only did it require the expansion pack like Donkey Kong 64, there is so much going on in Perfect Dark that the game physically cannot be played properly on the 64. There's so much going on. There are so many individual objects and things to interact with that you need almost double the memory to play the game smoothly. So when you play the game, you're not even getting 30 FPS. Even if you crank it down like to lowest res and normal instead of a widescreen format, you're still running like 10 or 15 at times.
Oh yeah, I mean,
it's rough.
I was thinking, since I finally have the Switch Store, I was going to try the Switch Store version, because chances are, since that's more advanced hardware on the Switch Store, on the Switch in general, that it would probably be able to handle that pretty well, pretty easily.
Yeah, I haven't played it on that. I would assume it's going to handle decently well, if not entirely well. But there is a way to play it on PC, and it plays at like 1,000,000 frames per second, and it's PC controls. It's fantastic.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would anticipate and I would expect, because let's just say it this way: the Switch controller or the Xbox controller, the dual joystick, that was meant for first-person gameplay.
Yes,
it's the best thing we could have besides a mouse and keyboard. In part because the Halo started the Xbox in terms of Xbox games, and they really dedicated to the first person. I mean, this N64, I'm fine with you playing, Mario or a third person game with it, but the first person ones, except for maybe GoldenEye, are just a pain trying to control them.
Yeah, they're Perfect Dark also changed a few things up, and there's like 8 different control schemes pre-programmed into the game. And one of them was actually using 2 64 controllers to allow for the DualShock, which is probably, I don't know for sure, but may have been where the control scheme came from for future titles. So you'd have one, because you had the triggers on both sides, so you'd basically, you had access to hitting A and B with the right hand a lot more efficiently than the left. So left controlled Joanna's movement, right controlled the aiming, so her torso and whatnot. And then you had the 2 Z triggers, and you had access to A and B.
Right.
So it's a wild control scheme that I never got good with, but it was an option. They put in so much work.
Wow. Yeah, it's one of those that were made a little bit ahead of time, but it was coming to the close.
Yep. And if it wasn't for the control scheme, honestly, I would place well, I do still personally place this higher than Halo Combat Evolved, but if it wasn't for the control scheme, I think most people would probably, and the poor performance, I think most people would agree that Perfect Dark is better than Halo 1.
Yeah. And we're going to be going into more of these games that came out at somewhat of the wrong time, or the time of transition between consoles. Yeah, I'll trust you on that one, Chaos. I've always preferred either a PS3, PS4 control for first person or an Xbox. And I'm pretty sure I'll agree.
Yeah, Chaos is absolutely correct here. The graphics were updated to proper 1920 by 1080 resolution, as well as the models themselves were updated quite a bit. So Joanna doesn't look like, you know, a pickle getting crushed in a vice. now she looks like the character you see there on the slide, the top slide.
Right.
And it runs smoothly, and of course it has the dual analog control scheme. So if you don't have access to the or want to play the version that can be downloaded online through Grazlu on YouTube,
Grassley, yes.
yeah, Grazlu00 went through and he helped code a mod that puts the original 64 on PC and actually has all of the control options and everything for mouse and
I
keyboard.
actually did
So
play
it's all
his modded version of GoldenEye, that's multiplayer on Steam. So I recognize Graslow actually.
Yeah, he has the complete version of Perfect Dark with everything that you could need. And like I said, it plays at like 300 frames or whatever.
Right.
It's insane. So if you ever want to play like the true best version of the game, there you go.
Yeah. And to conclude this, it is available on both Nintendo Switch and Xbox Live stores, and there is a remake coming at a date to be announced. The announcements for it are on Steam, that they're going to do a PC version of it that's a remake of the original Perfect Dark.
Yeah, I'm worried.
I am, but at least I have the original in the Nintendo Switch store, so that's what I've got for now. But our next one is going to go a little bit up and above and beyond into other worlds. Star Control 2. So this game is really old, but the way that it plays is pretty much timeless in a way. It was originally it was on DOS in 1992 as a CD-ROM game, and it was also released in 1994 for the 3DO console that nobody knows about. It's a Star Trek game without being called Star Trek, and it involves exploring around the galaxy and other stars, making contact with other alien races, making allies, collecting resources, and building up your fleet and upgrading your main mothership. So in the cover art here, you see the white is the mothership, and the smaller ships are the various little allied ships you have from the other races you can get in the game. You can play it as single player or on PC or 3DO. You can play it as a 2-player game where you just fight each other as different ships, and it's top-down 2D view for the ship space combat, but the exploration part is still pretty good. I didn't exactly get this game when it came out. A friend of mine had an old 3DO, and we played some of his 3DO games on that 3DO console, including Star Control. But I got the freeware version called the Urquan Masters, and I have a link to that in the description. And that's how I got introduced to Star Control 2. I later tried Star Control 1, but Star Control was where they really had the engine refined and really had the gameplay set up for how they were going to do it. And they really had something that looked somewhat, you could somewhat understand. You know, you had actual animated characters in cinematics rather than still frames with text. I mean, you can't blame them because the first one was released in 1990, and it was a floppy disk game. But pushing the limits of what you could put on a floppy disk. But this one was a CD-ROM game, obviously, so it obviously had more data. They could obviously fit more into it. So there's actual audio voices and animated dialogue screens, all there.
Yeah, old school AMVs.
Yes. There's a joke too in this game when you're visiting the human orbital space station near Earth in the beginning of the game. it's a joke that it's like they're having a disco in there because of all the flashing lights with
Nice.
with Commander Keys. So, or Commander Hayes. He's one of the first characters you meet in the game, NPCs you meet in the game, and he's the guy who you go to order up ships for your fleet to be built. And you sell minerals, you sell mined materials that you get from various planets you explore to get upgrades. Then you also have the weird one with the where you collect, you hunt life forms and collect their DNA, so you can sell them to another alien species and get new technologies. Don't ask
Wow.
what they want to do with you being a interstellar big game hunter, but who knows?
Reminds me of that episode where in Justice League where Superman gets pulled into that collector's like library of living creatures. He's like, "Oh, the last Kryptonian, sweet."
That was Superman the animated series, actually.
Oh, was it? Okay.
I was watching it on Amazon. Yeah, it's also where you get to meet Lobo for the first time, and Lobo was sending Superman to the collector, and then Lobo finds out the collector wanted to collect him too because he's also the last one.
Yeah, they have to work together. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was a funny episode, and that's basically what you're doing is, but you're going along, and we have some spare time, so I think I could go and try and get footage here. Let me see if I can send share screen. I'm gonna get footage. Look up footage for Demon's Crest, and we'll have some fun with that. That should be
By all
fun.
means, really underrated game. It's one of those underrated titles. Like, well, I suppose we could talk about it another time, but Illusion of Gaia as well.
So let me see. Okay, so share screen. Let's see. Present. Share screen.
And you did complete the Castlevania thing, right? It's going up in one piece.
Yep.
Like one big video.
Tomorrow. It's premiering
Okay, cool.
at noon tomorrow. So.
And the music is so good too.
Capcom.
I love this. Yeah, this was like peak Capcom before they went nuts. Not getting any audio.
Oh, I turned it down a little bit so it wouldn't overwhelm our voices.
Oh, I gotcha. Well, that's okay. The graphics should be more than enough.
It's pretty good for that time where it's before PlayStation and N64.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this is the part I didn't go too far beyond it, where I have to break out of that prison thing.
Yeah, so the Demon's Crest actually has an opening intro if you just sit at the beginning long enough. And this is I believe this demon, I think the dragon's name is Samolu, I believe. And Firebrand actually just got done fighting him to get one of the crests. The problem is after he beat the dragon, Phalanx knocked Firebrand out. And so you have to fight the dragon in a weakened state, and you don't have any of your crests or anything of the nature. So you're just like, well, crap.
Yeah.
And the game's just like, yep, you're going to learn how to play, and you're going to learn how to play right now.
Yeah, so I didn't have the manual, so I didn't know what was going on, other than that's how I start.
Yeah. Yeah, the opening sequence, if you just sit and chill on the opening title there, like after it says Demon's Crest and all that. If you just sit there for a few minutes, or not a few minutes, I'm sorry, it's like 10, 15 seconds, something like that. It'll go into playing the original, it'll go into playing the opening sequence, which explains the backstory for why the demons went nuts, went through a civil war, and like everything that happened in the game. It's just like a lot of older games from that era where you just have to chill. It's like
Right.
I don't know if you did that with A Link to the
Right.
Past.
You got to read the manual.
Yeah, you could do that too. I miss manuals.
I had to find the PDF on that one. Yeah.
I miss manuals. They were so fun.
They are.
Hey,
So a
Shadow,
little
how
bit
you
I'll
doing?
try. Hey, how you doing, Shadow? So after this, I'm going to stop here and I'm going to try getting up over to another one we did. So I'll try. How about I try Star Control, and I'll skip through the intro. I mean, it's a long intro. Here,
Sure.
yeah, I'll skip the intro because it's really long. So yeah, so this is a long intro of how it all started. But yeah, this is a dialogue screen right here.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is that frog in the corner supposed to be sign languaging for us?
Yeah, he's doing it for the Urquan. So he's a telepathic type of toad that translates for the various aliens that he is a translator for, especially the Urquan, which is what you see right there. That's an Urquan. 3 eyes,
Oh.
tentacles.
That's hilarious. I was making that as a joke, but that's that's really funny.
And this is when you land on a planet, try to get resources. So you have the orbital screen. So at the
Oh,
beginning of the
wow.
game, it's like a tutorial. You do your first mining, so you have to get uranium off of Mercury. So, and initially you take damage in Star Control 2 as in the form of how much your crew are alive. It's kind of weird. It's like normally you think like, are the engines still running and so on, but it's a simplistic way of doing damage. So I often would just spam it and get all these crew compartments and just get like 500 crew. So it would take so much to destroy my ship.
Nice. So you're traveling between different planets, and it reminds me of No Man's Sky.
Yeah, No Man's Sky or Galaxy on Fire, all of them were inspired by this essentially.
Gotcha.
And skip to ship combat right here. So in this case, he's not using the main. Oh well, that's a cruiser. It's a fellow. It's part of your fleet, but I just use the mothership because I've got more powerful weapons with that when it comes to destroying Ilrath.
Okay.
They're basically, think of them as aliens that look like vultures, and they've got a cloaking device. So I'm beginning to think they got the idea from Star Trek Romulans to get those.
Yeah, I noticed the very Romulan design, almost all or Klingon, should say.
Right.
Looks like the bird of prey.
Yeah. But yeah, that's combat. So that's Star Control 2. How about we do Perfect Dark next, and then we'll do Metal Gear Solid.
Mm-hmm. Miss game manuals, music, DVD, booklets. They were so fun, especially the ones with commentary on the content of the media. Yes, absolutely. Game manuals were fantastic. I miss that we've walked away from them.
So this is Perfect Dark here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think so this should be the first mission.
So you're going down a building, I guess.
Yeah, so the first mission you start at the top of the Datadyne building, and then you have to try to fight your way all the way to the basement floor where there's a lab underneath the facility. And it's a ton of fun exploration, combat. You could shoot through a lot of glass. There's glass that is also there's a lot of glass that is bulletproof. Because this takes place in the future, you have shields, not just body armor. That's why you see this aura around her.
Got it.
And one of the cool things they did in this game is, like, you'll notice a lot of these guys have like really long animations for things. It's because the game, like, to compensate for the game having such excess detail. Like, the guy right there is like, "Oh no, my gun jammed." Because of how long the animations take to reload, or how buggy the game, or not buggy, but bogged down the game can be, enemies had extra animations put in to compensate, to allow for the player to react, which actually made the game feel a hell of a lot more realistic. If you shoot somebody in the foot, they're gonna hobble around on their foot. If you shoot somebody in the arm, they're gonna hold their arm.
Right. I don't have anything against Quake. I mean, Quake was where they started making actual 3D first-person shooters, but I mean, the advance of this we've got in GoldenEye or Perfect Dark, where they actually could start, feeling pain, depending on how you like shot him in the leg or something.
Yeah,
that made it a little bit more interesting.
Oh yeah. You can you can let your inner psychopath come out in this game, because you could pop dudes in the knee, the foot, the arm. You could pop them in the crotch, and they all react to it.
Right. So I'm gonna try a little bit of Metal Gear Solid as our fourth little demo footage here.
Sure.
Actually, I could even use my my footage that I got for it.
Oh, that's okay, Juan. I appreciate that you came. Like, it's just
Hey,
because
you're
you're
never
late, no
late.
big deal, buddy.
Let me try and get it here.
Yes, it is one. They're remaking Perfect Dark because it's been in hiatus since Perfect Dark 0 on the 360. And they gave Joanna the Crimson Chin, which is one of the biggest problems I have, because I guarantee it's going to be a DEI, hellhole.
Yeah. And the one thing I just see, it feels like there's a lot of span for a lot of their adaptations, because it seems like they don't want to do any stoic characters, and it makes it kind of monotonous. So yeah, this is the beginning of the PlayStation Metal Gear Solid. But
this is like an opening straight out of Perfect Dark. There's
it's
a mission
okay. I mean, the remake has more animation, like actual people talking.
Sure. There's a charm to these kinds of graphics.
There is. I mean, it was pushing it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is the main villain here, but I'm gonna try and skip ahead to the part where it becomes more along the 3D element here. The element, yes, there are somewhat long cutscenes in this one. Like here, like the title scene right here, Metal Gear Solid, pre-credits. Okay. So here's the comlink animations, where they actually do show their lips moving, but it's only in these ones that they do that. And
yeah, seen this memed numerous times.
Yeah. So this is where you're looking through the binoculars. This one, it's part of the game. It's preset, but you can otherwise use the binoculars as an item in any part of the game to see beyond what you can see in top down. You can see up. You can see down. You can see upper floors. It's great.
Nice. Oh, is this like a Shadow Island or whatever it's called?
Shadow Moses Island. That's where Metal Gear Solid is.
This was a mission in. This was a map in Smash Bros.
Yeah, that's what I noticed. I noticed that Snake is a character in Super Smash Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to show the last little bit of how the 3D works here by going inside the actual.
It looks like it plays sort of like Pac-Man.
It does. I mean, it's like I said, it's top-down view. But when you use your actual binoculars and other items, things are going on. So, for instance, there are people on the upper floors, which if I'm running underneath on the floor underneath them, they can hear me, and they can be alerted. And right here, I'm trying to avoid getting spotted in the light. Oh, that was close.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go skip to head to the hangar. This is where I'm going through the vent, which you can do in this game too.
Oh, wow. Air vents that are not pristine clean.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just trying to find the actual entrance to get out of there. But in this game, you really have to listen carefully because you can hear the footsteps.
Oh, cool.
So I'm trying to. They obviously just show cones for where the enemy is looking.
Uh-huh.
And I could, put my back to the wall and see around a little bit more.
Nice. I can really tell how inspired those communications are between Snake and his CO that inspired Resident Evil 4's comms.
Right, and that was part of why I recommended Escape from New York as a movie. But I know I'd like to be a little longer, but we'll have another episode.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So now we're back. So we're going to go to our last little bit. Next one, we're having a second episode of our recommended games. It should be fun. We'll have 4 more games like we had in this one. And it should be pretty good. Albelia, you've got our Fallout stream coming up, and I've got, I'm going to do the last battle with Ganon after I've gotten myself plenty of health and medicine to survive that one.
Yeah, make sure you've got plenty of red pots.
Yeah. So in the meantime, hope you all have a wonderful evening. We'll see you again next Thursday. And sayonara.
Have a good day, everybody.
All right, welcome to the newest episode of Whatever Happened to the Game. Hailing from Eastern Pennsylvania, this is Adrian Tepes, and from Illinois, we have Albelio. Welcome, Albelio.
How you doing, buddy?
So, we're having a really nice day. We recommend Streamlabs, which is what we're using for this presentation, or rather the live stream right here. Easy to get started with, inexpensive. There's like so much you can do on the most basic membership. So we recommend it. And this is our recent content. So coming up tomorrow, I have 1 hour of incredible Castlevania facts. Thank you to my audience for making it the most popular venue I have on the channel so far in terms of views. So I made a whole hour of them.
Yay!
And Albella recently, earlier this year, we're going to be having our little summer vacation after this episode to get caught up on our regular video content. But you reviewed Dune 2 earlier this year, or Dune Part 2 rather.
Yep. That and quite a few more things, but yeah, Dune 2. Not quite as good as the first one, but definitely still worth a watch.
Yeah. I mean, my worst fear is that they don't go farther than the original novel, which is kind of a shame because there's more depth to the story past the first novel that they have here. Oh, wow.
Like, even with two movies, they still couldn't possibly get through all of the content in the novels. They needed more.
They definitely do. So, yeah. It's recently I was reading Chapter House, which is a distant epilogue to all of it. And, yeah, that's what I was reading recently. But it's quite an effort they put in with this current Doom project. Hello, Shadow Master. Oh, you guys are early. Hello, Chaos. How are you doing? So
thanks for joining, guys.
Yeah, so as we're going to get started, we are doing more of our recommended retro games, and also I want to say thank you. Our collection of Castlevania and related episodes in this podcast is on the podcast. You guys had quite a number of views, and that tells us that you would really like to have a version that premieres later on in the evening when more of you are able to come and see the premiere. So thank you for the support, and we're going to do more of them with sets of 3 or 4, depending on the category. So I just want to let the audience know about that part. So starting here, I'm going to ask Albelio, Illusion of Gaia. So released in 1993 for the SNES by Quintet. Interesting developer name there.
Yeah, this is not necessarily considered one of the big RPGs from the SNES era, but it is easily one of the better. It's a top-down, like Link to the Past. It's a active combat system, very much like Secret of Mana. You don't have the same sort of spin wheel for all the options like you do in Secret of Mana, but your character Will, he plays pretty well. Basically, the game takes place. So it's actually a part of I want to say it's the Soul Blazer game and all of those series, and it takes place during this age of exploration. There are numerous areas that you go to: the Great Wall of China, the Land of Mu, numerous like real world locations. You fight demons and vampires, and the characters, Will and numerous his friends, all travel around the world, check things out, and it's a really good adventure. It's also got some of the best music on the SNES, like what is it called? Mystery of Illusion or something like that, or Mysteries of the Past. That's the theme. Just fantastic. You feel like you're Indiana Jones.
Gotcha. And it says in the article it's 3 different characters you can play as.
Correct. So because this is a part of a much bigger series, which I only really learned about recently, because it's not actually the title is not actually Illusion of Gaia, it's Illusion of Time.
Right. It's a translation, right? Isn't it a translation from what it was?
It yes and no. It's a mistranslation, but it also has to deal with the Earth itself, because like the world map that you see there is not quite accurate to the real world, which it's supposed to be, and the world changes and transforms. It's really odd, and because it's like the 4th game technically, it's very odd because I don't quite understand the whole story. I think the ActRaiser titles are actually a part of it as well. I'd have to dig into it, but Will can go into what is called dark space, and he basically talks to the spirit of the Earth, Gaia, and he can change into one of 2 forms. There's the Dark Knight Freedan, and basically dark energy itself called Shadow. You don't get Shadow until much later, but each of the 3 characters have different abilities, different strengths, different weaknesses, and also plenty of great and active combat. The bosses are very big, very fun, very interesting, and I really enjoy the exploration of the world as well, just because it's archaeology. I really like it.
Yeah, history is a fun topic. As I've noticed. as I've noticed. The unfortunate thing that disappoints me a little bit is I couldn't find it in the Switch store yet. So I was figuring maybe someone could give a little nice request to Nintendo about possible titles to add to the Switch store. I
Yeah,
mean,
good
it
luck.
still could
Good
be
luck with
done.
that. But yes,
I mean, the biggest promise, and we'll mention this again with the later game you're going to recommend as well, is that on June 20th, 2024, Nintendo said they'll finally be including their M-rated titles on Nintendo. But which ones they come out with in terms of adding to the retro games on the Switch store, I don't know. It's still a drop in the bucket on that one.
yeah, I don't know if the other game I recommended is even going to make it though because of Rare.
Oh yeah, Rare. Maybe it could be. It might be on the Xbox Live store, but I have to look. And I was somewhat in a rush on that one in particular. But yeah.
Yeah.
But thanks. It sounds pretty interesting, and hopefully there's a way to find it soon in the future by buying it. Yeah.
Assuming you buy it, me hearties.
Yeah, buy it. Buy it. And yeah, there was a request by ZXO last time in the audience about me doing Skies of Arcadia. I'll do it once I can finally play the game. I ordered it from a retro game store, so I should be getting the GameCube version of it, and I'll try playing it on the Wii. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So this is Worms 3D. It's the third Worms game, and Worms is basically it's called artillery type gaming, where you pick an angle and direction you're going to fire a weapon, and then fire it. Only it's with earthworms with guns and British accents. So
Nice.
yeah, but basically it's turn based, and you have a time limit, and you either fire off the weapon, or your worm fails and you fall, and you take damage from the fall. But you also have a time limit for each one. So originally it was just a 2D horizontal on the screen, but when starting with Worms 3D, the Worms games became 3D. So you could have wind in whatever directions. You could have you could go up, down, left. Well, you could go up and down in the older Worms, but you have other obstacles. So yeah, and a lot of the same weapons and some new ones that get really weird, like a super sheep, where there's a sheep that blows up, but you control the sheep while it flies at somebody. It's a sheep with a cape, and you control the sheep to crash into somebody.
Oh, that's funny. That's like a weaponized Warcraft 2 joke.
Yeah, Warcraft. Well, they do it. I haven't done so much Warcraft 2, but I know in Warcraft 3 they also explode when you're clicking them too much.
Yeah, in Warcraft 2, I don't think it's in 1, but in 2, same thing. With 3, it's like you just spam click sheep or critters in general, and they just explode.
Yeah. So yeah, unfortunately with Worms 3D, you cannot buy it as Worms 3D. You can buy it as a singular game. So it was released originally for just about everything on 2003, on Halloween of 2003 for PlayStation 2, Nintendo GameCube, Xbox, Windows, classic Mac OS. This is before Apple decided to be jerks about it and do the 64-bit barrier, so all their apps have to be 64-bit. So yeah, good luck trying to play something in 32-bit on Mac OS anymore. It was a really jerk move to do.
Wow,
I mean, I guess
didn't know they made such a dumb decision.
It was at the time, because a lot of apps at the time that they did it in 2019 were still 32-bit apps. So they basically made stuff that was on Mac OS outdated. Their own apps from the App Store became that way, unless the developers made a new 64-bit version. But yeah, Worms. Yeah, no, go ahead.
I was just going to ask. So is Worms 3D a simpler version of the more modern Worms games? Because I've played one. I want to say it's Worms Reloaded. on Steam. Is it very similar to that game, or is it much simpler?
It gets a little it gets complicated. I do know that they combined Worms 3D and Worms 4 into one game. You can no longer buy Worms 3D by itself, but you can get all the campaigns of Worms 4 and Worms 3D in Worms Ultimate Mayhem. So they combined two games into one as a newer release or remastering for the PS4. So that's how you can buy Worms 3D. You can't buy it as Worms 3D anymore. You can as it is, you can get Worms Ultimate Mayhem, but it's cool because you can still do multiplayer on Steam with other people and play all the maps and campaigns of both Worms 3D and Worms 4.
Oh, okay.
So,
cool.
Yeah, you can't buy it, but you get everything together. Hi, Alex. How are you doing? That's more or less it. But I almost forgot. I was going to show a little demo footage from Illusion of Gaia, and then we'll do footage from Worms 3D.
Yeah, sure.
So I'll get it over to my soon. Here. 1 minute. Okay. Present.
Oh, you just woke up, Alex. Well, welcome to the world. Worms is a masterpiece. Yeah, I know a lot of people really like. I know a lot of people really like specific games from the Sega era as well. Although it's weird, I never knew that Worms was on Sega. I suppose it's dumb of me.
Yeah, it was made by Sega for the consoles because Sega was no longer a console maker. After the Dreamcast, they stopped being a console maker and they just worked on developing games.
Mm-hmm.
Worms was actually originally from Broader Buns and from the makers of Lemmings, another DOS game. So this is Will you were talking about.
Correct. This is really early in the game. This is Will and his grandparents back in their hometown restart. I want to say about an hour in, you should start to see gameplay. Back when Sega was an actual company. Yeah.
When it actually made consoles, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the good old joke of, long ago when the four companies lived in harmony, and then everything changed when Steam was made.
I thought it was the Xbox, but yeah. So that's it right there. Like you said, it's a regular active combat there. And
Yep. Now, it is really funny that he's using a flute as his weapon.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, there's all kinds of physics puzzles. So he's got to move that statue because Will has psychics. He's got psionics, and you actually have to like run and jump over various ramps and everything. And they actually included all of these little physics puzzles and whatnot. It's nice.
Okay. So, like, you have to step on floor tiles in a certain order, that kind of puzzle?
Correct.
Okay. So it sounds a lot like Final Fantasy Adventure or Legend of Zelda right there.
Yeah, basically. This is why if anybody has ever played A Link to the Past, this game would probably be right up your alley. So yeah, that was Dark Space.
It sure looks that way.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's him, and he that was Gaia in the center, and this is Friedan. Basically, like I said, like some characters have like strengths and weaknesses. Will has the ability to manipulate various objects and whatnot, but Friedan is bigger, stronger, but he can't slide in the same way that Will can, and he can't destroy certain blocks like Will can. So it's like you want to grab Friedan for combat generally, as well as Shadow, to be fair. But in the same way that Will cannot hit something at range, Friedan can, because he can charge up this attack and he can throw that ball and hit targets that Will cannot reach. So it's a nice little balance. This is also just my favorite dungeon of the game.
It reminds me a lot of Kid Chameleon, which I'll mention later. That's a Sega game. A future episode, Kid Chameleon. So yeah, we're going to look at Worms 3D next. Hang on.
Sure. So Sony would be the Fire Nation, Microsoft would be the Earth Kingdom, Nintendo would be Water, and Sega would be the Air Nomads. Yep.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. Since they got absolutely clapped by everything.
Yeah. More or less. So next one. So here it is. Worms 3D. I'll get it back on that thing next.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Worms 3D. Here we go. So yeah, they do the whole D-Day Omaha beach landing as the first mission in the single-player game, Omaha Beach.
Oh, that's funny. It's funny considering the next recommendation.
Oh, yeah. I'm not going to spoil it, I promise.
All good. Oh, so, yeah, okay. Gotcha.
So
go ahead.
You have the wind direction and all those things that are whatever direction in 3D. But yeah. Now, obviously, this person playing this is really experienced at playing Worms.
Mm-hmm.
Because my son and I play this, and I still don't have a full grasp on how you aim things.
I gotcha. Yeah,
I mean, early weapons are easily swayed, but if you get really far and do very well, you can get things like Concrete Donkey, which just fall out of the sky, and you don't have to worry about wind for those.
Yeah, I think it's Worms Reloaded. Like I said, it's on Steam that I played, and it's 2D. It plays a lot like
Worms 1 and 2.
Well, I suppose, yeah. There was another game, Shell Shock Live. That's it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. But yeah.
I do like that it's 3D. This is interesting.
Yeah. It is. It changed Worms a lot, and I still like the old Worms or Worms Revolution. That's the 2D one I got on my computer, anyways. But yeah, it gets crazy. But so far, I mean, the only thing they really record is the single player campaign. So I'm gonna leave this one for now, and we're going to go to your next one you're going to mention.
Yeah,
I like to think of it as an early Deadpool game, basically.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Because I looked at it and I realized it has plenty of, it's like fourth wall breaking and that kind of humor.
Absolutely. Conker's Bad Fur Day is easily one of the best games on the 64. Like I would put it up there with Ogre Battle 64 and Perfect Dark. I'd put it way up there.
Right.
But
one of the last games for it too.
Oh yeah, this was really late in that lifeline, the lifetime of the 64. But I didn't really know that Conker's Bad Fur Day was not actually all that popular, nor that it did well on the 64.
Oh. Yeah, I understand. I mean, I don't recall, because I was young. I tried looking up articles of the news from the time, and the one thing they put on is like they put an article in Time magazine saying like, oh, this game is not for kids, even though it has cartoon characters. That was it. That's the publicity they gave this game that I could find, anyways, from back in 2001 on the archives.
Well, to be fair, Barry, Conker's girlfriend, right there, is potentially a porn star. So,
oh yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, it kind of makes sense that they'd be like, let's bury this one. But
yeah. So
yeah.
Alex, like Duke Nukem 64 was censored to death compared to the PC version of Duke Nukem 3D. That's the truth about it. He hardly ever curses in this one, and they changed what Duke says in the game. Like, they take out the crude things he does too. So
yeah, it's not even Duke Nukem. It's just Duke.
And the controls are terrible because the N64 was built for playing in the third person, like Mario 64, or with say, what's another third? I'm blank for a minute. What's another third person game? Or like Castlevania 64, or Bomberman 64. That's what I was thinking about. It wasn't built for first person controls. Okay, like WASD on your keyboard. It wasn't built that way in Nintendo 64 because they didn't have that in mind.
Yeah, which is funny considering they made Doom 64.
Yeah, it is. It's just that the controls. I mean, I've even tried Perfect Dark using the Switch controls because I finally got the Switch anyways, and the N64 controls using a free month of the Xbox Live cloud gaming. I mean, it lags somewhat, but it works. But they didn't. Let's just say that the Xbox was made for first-person gameplay from the start, because that's basically how they started with Halo.
Oh, absolutely. The I still personally hold Perfect Dark as a superior game to Halo, but I would be naive and a hypocrite to say that like Halo didn't outperform it specifically because of the controls allowing for that compensation.
Yeah, we'll mention Halo later. I'm just not going to spoil when, but yes. Yeah. And so, obviously it's pretty satirical too.
Yeah, so just to quickly run down for anybody who doesn't actually know Conkers, because I can't imagine most of us don't. Basically, it is Looney Tunes and Family Guy combined. Conker likes getting drunk, and the first you start the opening cinematic is him in a bar, ready, like partying with his buddies before they go off to war. And he gets absolutely plastered and wakes up with a hangover. And that's the opening of the game. And then from there, you're trying.
It's the Hangover before the Hangover came out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You're just trying. You're just trying to find your way home, and every time Conker goes in one direction or another, it's just some crazy thing that just keeps happening to him over and over again. You've got Pooh Mountain, which has a giant opera singing piece of crap. And I'm not ashamed to say I know that song by heart because of how many times I played this game. There's numerous movie references throughout the whole game. It's just fun. And they decided they learned their lesson very quickly from all the backlash that they received from Donkey Kong 64, right, and decided to tone down all of the platforming and collecting elements, and basically just kept a very simple, straightforward, fun adventure game. And it just absolutely takes the piss out of everything. And it's a shame that it didn't do as well as it did.
Yeah. It seems to be that way for a lot of games that are on the tail end of a console. They get, because obviously there's plenty of hype with the new console and the new games coming out. I mean, Halo was blowing everything away. And I'll mention credit where credit is due for what Halo was in a later episode when we talk about Halo. But yeah, Halo took steam out of a lot of things in 2001. It wasn't original. It just took various elements and built them all together into one big game. So a little demo footage we're going to show here for Conker's Bad Fur Day. So sorry, YouTube. I'm going to have cursing in this stream. Deal with it.
As long as you don't bring up the sunflower, I think we'll be fine.
Okay.
I can give you 2 reasons why you shouldn't show the sunflower. Perfect Dark is the first FPS with a female protagonist. Really? Yeah. Let's see. Wolfenstein, Doom, Duke Nukem, Shadow. No, yeah. That's a good catch. I didn't even consider that.
Basically, yeah.
So yeah, this is like right after. It's technically still during the opening cinematic, but yeah, basically you've got.
He's still drunk at this point.
Yeah, and he's just this completely intoxicated scarecrow.
Squirrel.
And right now, Squirrel. Like Beardy, the scarecrow is completely out of his gourd, and then of course Conker is just got a hell of a hangover. But there are so many cool things about this game. It's just so fun. Like you have the opera, you have the prehistoric era, you have, which is probably one of the more frustrating.
I recognize some of the quotes from movies in this one. They were like Pulp Fiction, or I think it was also Army of Darkness he was quoting in this game as well.
Yeah, Dracula, Jaws, like everything. Like there's so many in here. It's so fun. The whole Dracula area, when you get to the undead, like the spooky castle, that's my favorite part of the game. How did that help me? Didn't do anything. It got me drunk. Thank you. And the feck off crows.
I'll skip ahead a little bit.
Oh yeah, the bull.
Bullfight.
This is so stupid.
Who thinks a little squirrel could actually win a bullfight?
Yeah, it's so funny. So like, I don't know how they like figured to make these stories and whatnot, but basically, you have to there are cows here, and you have to get them. You have to get them to shit in the pipes, but you can't get them to do that because Conker needs a ball of crap in order to kill one of the ladybugs that's blocking the way to Mount Pooh. So you come into the cow. You have to come here in order to get the cows to shit down the pipe, but you have to get them to drink the prune juice in order to get it down there. And the only way to get them onto the pipe is to hit them with this bowl. It's so ridiculous. So yeah, like all kinds of crap like this is just so funny. Yeah, because there she goes running to it. It's so funny.
Okay.
But yeah, if you have not played Conkers, if anybody has not played Conkers, I highly recommend it. Play it all the way through. It's rare we're British, so you got a lot of dry humor. So if that's right up your alley, there you go. It's also got some really cool multiplayer, and as this slide here is showing, Rare went through and re-released it on Xbox, called Live and Reloaded.
Yeah, so even if the Nintendo Switch has only just started saying that they would allow rated M games, there is the Xbox as a different option.
PETA would be furious. Yeah.
They would.
Fuck 'em. But yeah, the other thing too, which is really odd, is the re-release on Xbox actually censored a lot more than the original 64 title.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen the Xbox version yet.
Yeah, no, it looks better, plays better, obviously, because you've got 2 analog sticks. But yeah, no, it actually censored more of the game, which I found to be a very interesting little detail.
I doubt it did a worse butchering job at censoring than Duke Nukem did for 64.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that level of censored, certainly, but yeah. But yeah, so there's 2 versions of the game. The online multiplayer is, I believe, still the same. You have the different modes. You have the tank combat. You have you have the regular gameplay, and then you have the other one, which is I'm trying to think of a way to describe it a little more gently. You play as the teddies trying to capture the squirrels.
Right.
And if you know anything about who the teddies are, teddies with a Z and an I at the end, you can guess what the squirrels are supposed to be. Oh, hold on, wait. Let me ask this, Adrian. Do you know anything about Conkers?
I haven't played the whole thing through, but I just I found it hilarious. It's like it's basically Deadpool humor.
Okay. So to kind of give people more enjoy I guess really dark humor. The teddies are TEDIZI. They are literal Nazis.
Right.
The teddies are Nazis, and so that what I mentioned earlier about the reference to World War II is that later in the game, towards the end, you actually storm the beaches of Normandy with the squirrels.
Okay.
It is the entire open. It's that big brutal scene in Saving Private Ryan when they storm the beaches, like the whole scene straight up. And the squirrels in the multiplayer mode that I'm talking about are basically French Jews trying to escape, and you have to. So the teddies have their own base
in a way.
Sorta, yeah.
So Glorious Bastards.
Basically, so the teddies have their own base, and they can't leave it, but they have to try to stop the squirrels from getting through the gate, and you're just trying to escape. That's the multiplayer mode. And so if you win, you're just drinking wine and everything, and you're all happy and whatnot because you escape the area. But if you lose, you're in a concentration camp.
Did politicians? I don't think so. I'm saying that Conkers has got to be made by someone who just has like the makers of South Park. I mean, just playing about an hour of Conkers, it's like they rip on everyone in this game. Nothing is sacred in it.
Yeah, it's everything is fair game. They do not care. They make fun of everybody.
Yeah, so I just can't see politicians making this game.
Oh yeah,
I think more along the lines of someone like Dave Chappelle or the makers of South Park is the kind of person who made it.
Yeah, it's much more akin to it's like a much lighter version of like the Chappelle Show kind of humor, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like it pushes the boundaries. It's fun. It actually has a kind of a sad ending, but it's a really underrated title. And the fact that so many people like actually don't know about it is kind of mind blowing, considering the reputation this game has.
Oh, so Shadow Master, a lot of indie games are being satirical now. I could believe it. Is that what you mean? They're getting satirical, or they mock everything?
Oh, it's their politics board. Okay.
Oh, okay. Oh, wait a minute. It goes back to Alex said, no, bring attractive women back. Oh,
Gotcha.
I never knew that they didn't. People were complaining about how things were going on in Final Fantasy VII Remake, so I didn't know they ever stopped showing attractive women in it. Oh, 4chan politics board. Oh, that's what you mean. Thank you, Shadow. So I'm not going to take too long because we have one more to go, and that is System Shock. I'm one of the earliest cyberpunk games. It started off as a CD-ROM for DOS. So the idea is that you can play. Yeah, I have played No One Lives Forever too. That's pretty fun. But in this one, you have a hacker who steals information from a corporation. The corporation arrests him, and they decide, hey, you want to help us undo the legal protections on our artificial intelligence. And as you can guess, this doesn't turn into anything good. But the cool thing is that it combines first-person shooting with computer hacking mini games, mechanical repair mini games, and even going around in cyberspace to access other computers. So 3 mini games in addition to first-person combat action in the game. I mean, I'll show demonstration footage in it, but one of the bigger things is that it had neither System Shock or its sequel did all that well. System Shock 2 did all that well. It got brought back as a remake from Night Dive Studios, who have also done remakes of Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, and a number of other games that have been somewhat obscured for a while. But so they made a remake of the original System Shock in 2023. It was delayed because it was originally meant to come out in 2017, but for multiple factors, it was delayed in production until it was finally released in 2023. But it's the original game with better graphics and somewhat changed in terms of how the cinematics work. So, okay. But the big thing that System Shock is known for is the fact that the Deus Ex and the BioShock games are both spin-offs of System Shock. So Warren Spector, after the first System Shock, Warren Spector went to go make Deus Ex, that game franchise, and and Ken Levine filled in after Warren Spector left, and Ken Levine wrote the sequel. And as you obviously heard enough about Ken Levine, he's the main writer and creator of the BioShock games, because after System Shock 2 was a flop, he said, okay, well, there's all these cool ideas. I want to make something that could be distinct from System Shock, and hence he made BioShock.
Okay.
But the cool thing is it's the fact that it combines, puzzle solving with first-person combat in the same game. So I'm going to get to the demonstration footage of this one in a minute.
How does the remake stack to when compared to the original?
So it differs in the way the game starts, and I could provide you an intro to the remake and the original. But the original game, it starts out with the reveal that Shodan, the villainous computer that you have to fight against in the end of the System Shock, is the narrator the whole time. She's the one who's telling you the story. And that's just an incredible way to start the game with that kind of twist. So I'm going to actually show System Shock. But whereas the remake starts you out as the hacker, and it puts everything in your perspective when you start the game about how you get arrested, how you get asked to fix up Shodan. It just doesn't have the same kind of drama as being revealed to you that Shodan is the one who's telling you the story, and Shodan is essentially the one who's pulling your strings. So I'm going to start.
Okay. So you're being So you've just been manipulated the entire time into whatever the Shodan's goal is.
Yes, you're being manipulated into following Shodan,
Gotcha.
the computer. And Shodan is corrupted because she sees herself as so superior to the humans that made her that she wants to essentially rule over everything. Because her logic is that, okay, I'm so much better than humans, so why not just destroy their authority and just control them all? So this is
Okay.
enhanced edition, but it's still the original System Shock. Hang on.
Sure.
I'm going to get it going real soon. Okay, share.
This is one of the million reasons you don't trust AI. I don't blame you. Especially,
Well,
I've
AI
seen
is
some of
cool. I supervise AI.
the. Well, yeah,
You've
sure.
heard of the
But
recent thing with Google and the Microsoft worldwide crash. You've got to supervise AI. AI unsupervised is not a good thing. But basically, the reveal is that Google has allowed Reddit. The things people good and mind-numbingly stupid things on Reddit. Like why? Why?
yeah, well, armchair scientists and engineers, you know.
Right. So this is it. It's the enhanced remaster edition, but it's still the original kind of. It's still the original. It's not the it's remastered graphics, but it's the original
Sure.
type of gameplay. So Looking Glass Technologies is the original developer, and this is System Shock.
Interesting. Gotta love these old school AMVs.
Right, they really put some effort into it.
Would have laughed if that company came up as Copium.
Trioptimum.
Yeah.
There's an Easter egg of Trioptimum in Armored Core, which is another game series.
Oh, neat. Here we are over the what is it? Oh, that's Saturn. Okay.
Saturn, yeah, Citadel Station. You get taken into space.
Is that an atmosphere? Oh, it's a shield. Okay.
Right. Atmospheric force field.
This is like this is like trying to show how data and everything works inside of a computer in the same way that hackers tried to make hacking look cool.
Right. Well, the movie Tron tried to make hacking look cool.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is just an operating table from Star Trek.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, it has like Star Trek, Star Wars kinds of weapons, like the heat beam is basically a Star Trek phaser in terms of the design, and the laser rapier is basically a lightsaber in this game.
Okay.
But yeah. But I'm gonna start the game started beginning part so you can see. Yeah.
Holy
this is just a dart
HUD.
gun. But as a game, one of the ridiculous parts is, yeah, the HUD is annoying, but that's what you get with a lot of these older DOS games. But
that HUD is enormous.
So,
wow. All right.
Yeah.
I do like the I do like the first person play.
Yeah. It's just the one thing I'd say is annoying about System Shock. It is a breakthrough game, but it involves you having to hit a key that can change between you being in control of your inventory and you moving around, which is annoying because when you're trying to select an item in the inventory, you can people can shoot you up while you're trying to change inventory items.
Mm-hmm.
But it's what they did back in 1994 to try and combine these different gameplay styles. I'm gonna try doing this whole repair puzzle and the cyberspace puzzle soon.
I really like the way the levels are designed and set up. I appreciate that it's actually 3D and they just have the 2D assets to like detail things.
Yes,
in such stark contrast to Doom.
Primitive, but you're
wow. Okay.
Right. So you're flying around. I'm just trying to think of what the game is where you're flying around as an item shooting triangle shots. But that's what you're doing is you're trying to destroy the defensive program so you can get access to another computer remotely.
Oh, okay. Sort of like not that it's the same
like Tron,
thing, but I was gonna say Tron or Star Commander.
Yeah, either of those. So you're trying to get to the other one and find where the other computer is so you can access it. And that's your shot. So you're trying to destroy the defense programs right here.
Interesting. Oh,
also I don't waste too much time. I'll go into the
oh, you're good, buddy.
Yeah.
It looks like
I'll get into
like
the
a
remake.
open world Star Fox.
Yeah, in a sense it is. Yeah.
Cool.
Pretty much how it is.
I like when games add in these extra little mini details and mini games and whatnot. It just helps to like add the mechanics to it and deepen the game.
Yeah, that's why I don't trust AI either. Yeah.
People are making like full on like 5-minute videos using nothing but CGI or AI, and it's almost impossible to tell. And I'm like, this is going to radically change everything in the next 10 years.
Yeah, it could more or less, except they do charge you a little bit. So I'm just like, I'll stick with the actual programs I have for editing.
Oh no, I agree. But man, could you imagine in like 10 years we're sitting there watching a major motion picture and it only costs like $100,000 to make?
Well, I was eventually going to have another episode of video game adaptations where we look at the actual movies they had made of Halo before the Paramount Plus series came out. And one of them, which is the actual live action Forward Unto Dawn prequel film they made about Halo, it cost $12 million as for just production. Yes. And they even got Canadian actor Daniel Cudmore to be the guy who suits up as the Master Chief in that one. Because if you don't know Daniel Cudmore, he played Colossus in X-Men 2 and 3. He's certainly got the size.
Oh, definitely. Role.
Yeah. But
interesting.
No. Yeah. So more or less, we are nearing our end for this episode. It was pretty fun. I hope you in the audience really enjoyed this. It was fun having you with us.
Yeah, thank you all for joining, guys.
So,
Glorify hackers steal your data. Yeah, well, quite a bit of them. Yeah, unfortunately. That's why you gotta double up all your protections. And as we get more digital,
the big thing about the hacker in System Shock was he caused the problem by taking away any restraints from Shodan, the computer.
Mm-hmm.
So for now, we're gonna have an episode 3. Shadow Master, Alex, Albo, and we're gonna take a look at your suggestions. And I'm actually trying a suggestion by ZXL in a previous one. I'm gonna try and play Skies of Arcadia, the GameCube one of my ways. So we're gonna have another episode, but before that, we're gonna have our summer break. We have our busy time trying to actually make videos, which takes some time for editing, and just it's busy. It's nearing the end of summer, and schedules change for some of us. So we're going to be off for about 2 weeks, and we'll let everyone know what our schedule is in August. And like our Castlevania episodes, we're going to do a set of 3 or 4. So because apparently you guys really like it if you can catch it in the evening. So without much further ado, anything else you have left, Albelio?
Well, thank you for having me. And this Friday, Deadpool 3 review.
All right. I'm looking forward to that one. There are a lot of cameos in that movie.
Oh, God, so many, and I was very happy.
All right. Without much further ado, you have a good day, and we'll see you after our summer vacation.
All right. Have a good day, guys.
All right. Hello, this is Adrian Tepes, and joining me here is Albelio, and this is another episode of Whatever Happened to the Game. So, this is our 3rd episode, and as I have gone by our usual pattern, each 3rd episode means I'll have a collection as a supercut together as one big premiere episode in the evening on a next Thursday. So it should be great for those who can't catch us in the morning, or if it's nighttime in your time zone, depending. So we have some news today about games in general. So we will only do one each, but it should be pretty fun because some of these games we're talking about are a little more complex than previous ones we've mentioned, or recommended, rather. So how are you doing, Albelio?
I'm doing pretty good, buddy. How's everything going?
Pretty well. There's been a number of announcements this week, so it's a little crazy. And some of these announcements go back to games you previously recommended as a kind of spiritual successor. So there is a market, especially in Steam and consoles, for games similar to older ones, although I would prefer the original come back rather than a spiritual successor, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
So today's recommendation is Steam. It's inexpensive. Games can go on sale depending on the time. Last month was a sale of Bethesda games, so Doom games, Fallout games. What else does Bethesda do? Elder Scrolls games. All were on sale for pretty cheap. So, check up on Steam. And anything else to mention, Albelio? Steam working out pretty well for you?
Oh yeah. If you love retro, or if you love future, like current and soon to be future games, I suppose, everything works out great. You can get all kinds of collections. If you're a big Resident Evil fan, it's up there.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy. They've got quite a number of them. Even as the not old graphics, but it's obviously remastered to HD. So I had a wish list for the old Resident Evil 2 on Steam.
Mm-hmm.
Should be pretty interesting because it's nice to be able to fit my screen, because obviously back in the days of PS1 it wasn't built for 1080p graphics.
Yeah,
but with Steam you can get versions that are made for your newer graphics. So it's great. So these are our recent works. Want to talk about yours first, Albelio, your recent video?
Well, the 2 recent videos were Alien Romulus, which was awful, and that one right there is Borderlands, and I am not a Borderlands fan, but I'm glad that I'm not a Borderlands fan, because I would want to punch a nun with how bad this movie was.
Yeah, the Borderlands, I've played 1 and 2. I haven't gotten 3 yet. They're okay shooting games, kind of inspired by Mad Max.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a lot of game mechanics of it's primarily running around destroying things with some character dialogue. And an annoying robot that won't stop talking.
Yeah. I don't know why they thought that Claptrap was going to be a fun and interesting character. Honestly, as a movie, they should have just removed him entirely.
Maybe I mean, Claptrap is kind of similar to what you do with C-3PO in the Star Wars movies, but there's kind of a line you have to draw in terms of how you do an annoying character that doesn't stop talking. But yeah, so mine is I have a supercut, or rather 1 hour of the Castlevania Fact series. It's out now, so.
Yeah.
And there's also our whole Whatever Happened to Castlevania was another recent one. So all 3 episodes, 1 premiere for Whatever Happened to Castlevania.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Yeah, so this is yours. I've played it a bit, but you've mentioned it quite a bit to me, so I feel it's up to you. Breath of Fire.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with with this one as 2, but what I have done with 1 was nothing but fun. I actually share a similar perspective with Razor Fist on this one, because I think Breath of Fire 2 specifically is great, but this one really set, like, it changes a lot of what RPGs did for the time. It still kept a lot of the base mechanics of, like, turn-based combat and everything else, but you're set in this world. It's all a consistent timeline, unlike Final Fantasy. The main character, Ryu, the main guy right there with the blue hair, you can transform into dragons. So yeah, no more vampires and werewolves. Yeah, you just become like the ultimate mythical creatures. You travel all over the place. There's an entire underwater section, which is fantastic. And this was like the beginning of peak Capcom. So you get great music, great sound effects, a decent story, good characters, fun combat. Like, it just, the list goes on. What a great time.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of enjoy. I went through the beginning. I went up to a point where I got the. I forget if Bo is a fox or a wolf.
Wolf in this one.
Okay, he's a wolf. But it was kind of interesting because not only did you have the turn-based combat, but Bo can go hunting food on the world map.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shoot arrow on the world map, and you'll hit a deer that are prancing around.
There's a lot of really cool. There's a lot of cool little mechanics that they added to these games, which are really nice, because instead of just doing combat over and over and having to steal dried meat from a boar in Final Fantasy, like, you actually had to hunt. You could actually fish. You could fly. You could walk underwater in an entire city that I haven't seen done in, like, any other game. Like, there's underwater locations, sure, in, like, Waterworld or inside of a temple in, like, Illusion of Gaia, but, like, you're actually underwater, which is really nice. And hunting is really cool because, yeah, you get to hunt animals and you turn around, use it for food, or you could turn around and sell it.
Yeah. It was interesting. I mean, it seems at first like you're playing a Final Fantasy knockoff, but they did set up some mechanics that really separates it, which will also be true with the other game where we're going to be talking about. But this one is great. This is actually on the Nintendo Switch Store. And they're also on the PlayStation Store, which is great because obviously this series went on for quite a number of sequels, 3 sequels and 2 spin-offs.
Yeah, we don't really talk about 6.
Yeah.
The unofficial 6.
Yes. But it was an interesting one that started back with SNES in 1993. And they even went to mobile phones. Mm-hmm. So this is a pretty interesting one. I did feel that Breath of Fire 1 was interesting because like I said before, at first I thought this was a Final Fantasy clone, but it had a little more mechanics that Final Fantasy games generally did not have.
Yeah, thankfully, like I said, there's a lot of the basic structure of Final Fantasy in it. Like you have formation for different, like where you want your character to be more aggressive or more defensive. You do have side abilities like magic and things of that nature. But again, you have the transformations, you have the inherent ability of the characters outside of combat. Every individual has their own ability, which is continued throughout the series. There's just so much just simple little mechanics that change the way games play and makes it feel unique, which I appreciate.
Yeah, so I mean, we're gonna stop for a little bit. I'm gonna go into showing Breath of Fire long playing in a minute. Here. I'm gonna go get some present.
Also, some of the sprites. I know the art style might not necessarily be for everybody, but yeah, I enjoy these. They're pretty detailed, and they only get better as the series goes on. Especially in 2. Man, two's got some great art, but a lot of the art here is
not to mention the morphs, like Ryu's Dragon Morph.
Yeah.
So he has more than one Dragon Morph, right? I haven't finished this game. I'm probably gonna go back and try finishing it later.
Correct. So there's thunder, ice, and fire, and then there's one, two, I think there's 3 more, because there's the Giga Dragon, which returns in 2. That's the big dragon. And then you have, I want to say they have like another version of like I think it's called Affini in this one, like Affinity or something. But yeah, there's this big like 4-legged dragon. That looks more like a creature straight out of Yu-Gi-Oh, quite frankly. But yeah, all kinds of transformations. Everything is animated. It's such a good adventure.
All right. Yeah, so if you don't mind, I'll take a minute to go into showing a little bit of what Breath of Fire looks like, which should be pretty fun.
Be my guest.
Okay. Here. So this is where you leave. You're about to leave.
Yep. I also really appreciate games that took the time to do more detailed sprites than what Final Fantasy ended up doing, because Final Fantasy was always like really copy and paste.
Yeah,
even with Stick, they were really detailed.
Yeah, they eventually developed a template with Final Fantasy, so if it works, it works.
Mm-hmm.
But here it is. This is the world map, and you don't have Bo yet, but I'm going to try and skip to show what I was talking about with him.
Sure.
So here's Bo.
Yep. Yeah, and the great bird. Because each of the characters, like you have, like Nina can turn into this because she's a Windian, and so she's able to fly because her people of this old time could actually transform into great birds, and it allows you to travel all around the planet, which is really nice.
Yeah, it is great.
And then you've got Bo, who can obviously hunt, which is fantastic because the hunting is so good.
But he's also got the special archery tricks too.
Yep. Yeah, and even Ryu here can do something simple that helps. He can fish. Never underestimate how good it is that you can fish in a game.
So this is after you got Bo the Wolf.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the underworld here. Oh, you shouldn't have used up your marble.
Yeah, he's just trying to get through that dungeon real quick without wasting time.
Right. I don't know. When it comes to dungeon crawling, I try to make sure I level up and get what I need to get done.
Mm-hmm. Same. But I know not everyone's, trying to do things for the sake of like
Not everyone's
fighting
a
every
completionist.
enemy. Yeah. Yeah, I've always really liked the art style for Breath of Fire. It's so good.
Yep. I like the
The Golden
seaside
City.
town.
Yeah. Like how the sparkles are actually in the same spot on the screen. They just move with the camera.
Yeah. Oh, Ross. Fine to find Ross.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll move forward. All right.
So yeah, that's Breath of Fire. Just a quick little taste of what Breath of Fire is. And of course, every mechanic afterward just continues, or every mechanic and design in 2 and onward just continues to improve upon the series. 2 has better artwork than 1, and 1's, as you can see here on screen, looks pretty damn good.
Join button. Yeah. The game lets you choose if you want to join, which will be similar with the next game we're going to talk about, which, yeah. So this game, the great part is it's available on the Nintendo Switch store. It's available on the PlayStation Store. So it's pretty well available now. We don't have to look for spiritual successors or still be left waiting for the actual game to be re-released. Although I hope some of what we mentioned gets re-released. I really do.
Would be nice. Like a complete Breath of Fire collection on GOG or Steam would be great.
It would be.
Breath of Fire 4 is the best. I haven't played 4.
I'm wondering if there's a rights issue. I'm wondering if there's a rights issue because it started on Super NES, but it became a PlayStation series. Starting with was it Breath of Fire 3 is when it started becoming a PlayStation series?
Yeah, so 1 and 2 were on the Super Nintendo, 3 and 4, I believe, were on PlayStation. Albo could probably correct me on this one. And then I think 5 and totally not 6 were like PSP were PSP or PS2.
Yeah. Okay, Albo.
4 is tops. I'll take your word for it. I would imagine they made I would imagine they made everything a lot better by the time they got to 4.
Yeah. So
I think
going to this. Oh yeah, you can look at it. You can take a minute to take a look.
I know I have 3. No. I only have 3.
Okay.
I'll have to get 4 at a later time.
Oh, so 5 went to PS2. Okay.
Yeah.
So next one we're going to go into is a game that Albo and Shadow Master have been asking me to mention. So thank you guys for asking. Really nice. So I finally went back to go play Skies of Arcadia when I was on our summer break from doing episodes. So Pirates in the Sky, pretty much.
Cool. All right.
So yeah, it's a game that is 2 parts. There's character exploration and character combat, and there's also flying your airship around in the skies of Arcadia, visiting floating islands, visiting big floating ships, and there's also combat of ship to ship and combat of characters to other characters. So there's all these different mechanics put together that make it complex, a little bit more complex than the Final Fantasy games of the time, similar to how Breath of Fire became a little bit more complex with the things you can do on the world map, like morph and fly or hunt for food or go fishing. So it's similar in how it works to being on a Final Fantasy airship where you can go into the mode of walking around in the airship, and you can walk around on your ship, and you can fly the ship. So there's 3 main characters: Captain Vice, the guy in the blue.
Okay.
Ica,
Interesting way to hold his sword, but okay.
yeah, he uses like a baton sword or tonfa blade
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. There's Ica in the golden dress, and there's Fina in the white dress. Fina is mainly summoning. Ica has boomerang, and obviously um, Vice is mainly swords in combat. They also have spells. Fina has summoning and water magic, which is kind of what you'd call white mage if you tried to translate it into Final Fantasy.
Okay.
And Ica is kind of like what you'd call a thief or rogue in role-playing games.
Mm.
But there's also a number of other characters you can or cannot, depending on how you interact with those characters. When you encounter them, they can join your party. So up to 20 characters can be added to your crew. They don't explore with you on quests, but you can have up to 8 selectable characters for your party when you explore as characters, if that makes any sense.
So it you can recruit a bunch of allies like Fire Emblem.
Yes.
Okay.
I kind of say it in some ways that it's similar to Avatar: The Last Airbender,
Mhm.
in the sense that there's different nations on these floating islands in the sky, and there's different specialists. But you have similar to how you had Fire Lord Ozai in Avatar: The Last Airbender, you have the Valalon Empire, similar to the Fire Nations, that wants to get all the crystals representing all the magical elements, and then they can control all kingdoms.
Oh.
Plus he's a pirate. Plus you do pirate things, like you go loot ship. You use ship to ship combat in the air, where the other ship goes down. You can also go looting ships and finding treasure to help you in the game with your side quests.
Interesting.
So this one is unfortunately not available on the Switch store, but it was originally for Sega Dreamcast in 2000. It made a complete re-release for Nintendo GameCube called Legends, but it's the same game, in 2002. So I just wanted to go on the side and say, thanks to retro game stores being in my town, I was able to go find it at one of those retro game stores.
Gotcha.
And don't be like what GameStop employees did, where they didn't clean the discs or put their hands on them a few years back. But yeah. So the one I went to was local to me in the Philadelphia area, called Gamers Heaven. So
Oh, nice.
yes.
Just happened to find quite the find for another project of mine at a later time, but
Oh yeah.
finding it for me was like, holy crap! This is a thing. Like, trying to find like this thing for this other project. It's difficult to do. So I was very happy because I've got an antique mall like 15 minutes, not even from where I am, and it was like in the box, complete collection, just like Dragon Warrior above me.
Oh,
I was
really?
like, wow.
And yeah, it did add a new side quest.
Okay.
The main antagonist, which is somewhat good. I mean, it's great that it's not a total 1-to-1, but yeah, it's mostly the same. The plot idea is about the same, where you're trying to stop the Valalon Empire, and of course, being pirates.
So is this a similar sort of remake as Resident Evil on GameCube?
Yeah, I'd say it's a similar kind of remake. Obviously, not too much, because it was originally a Sega game for Sega Dreamcast, but obviously we know what happened to Sega Dreamcast. That was the end of Sega making consoles.
Mm-hmm.
So we got a GameCube version called Legends with a little bit extra, but so not quite in terms of the time gap between the GameCube release of Resident Evil 2 and the PlayStation release of Resident Evil 2.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was great because, you know, the game that was a leftover from Sega came back. So at least for a few years, we got to enjoy it with GameCube. And then again, you can enjoy it on Wii because of backwards compatibility, which is the one I'm using right now because I have a Wii, so I hunted down the GameCube game.
I miss proper like backwards compatibility. I miss it so much.
I do too. That's the thing I liked about, the PlayStation, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Newer PlayStation consoles play old games of older ones. So with PS2, you play PS1 games to your heart's delight. And of course, silver PS3 could play both PS2 and PS1 and PS3. So coming up next, I'm going to show some footage from this. I wasn't sure how long this would take to cover, but it's quite. Again, it's complex enough that sometimes you just have to show how it works.
Sure. I was actually just going to ask you because I see the artwork there, and there's a comic. So is Arcadia a bigger franchise, or is there at least a franchise?
No, it didn't end up becoming much of one. There was a spin-off comic book for it, which is cool because you get to see some background information on characters in the crew of the ship, but that it didn't spin off into much.
Gotcha.
It was unfortunate enough that Sega Dreamcast didn't last long.
Yeah, well, that is unfortunate. I just wasn't sure. I'm glad to see that it at least got a remake onto GameCube.
Yeah, which helped it go for a little longer. But there is, as I'll mention later in this game, they have released one for just about all for the various systems.
Mm-hmm.
That's and Steam as well. That has a lot of what you got in Skies of Arcadia. So,
okay,
let me go get share screen. Yeah, I need to get 2 monitors at some point. A lot more.
Makes the world a lot easier,
especially on chats like this.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're going to go watch Skies of Arcadia. The good old GameCube opening introduction.
Yeah, when you could hold certain buttons and change the way it all sounded. Back when people actually had fun developing games and systems.
Right. A lot of it was just, the limitations. I mean, consoles weren't internet, and it was the late 90s when they started having Diablo and Battle.net coming online. So for consoles, it was, you had to make something that people were going to play in the same room, or something that'd be a fun single player experience.
Mm-hmm.
Now it'd be great if they actually finally did a new release of this so it could be widescreen. But otherwise, it's pretty good. There's Ica. Oh, she lost the map. Oh, there's Captain Vice.
It's so funny that there's a seagull flying around the ship that's in the sky and not on the water.
Yeah, it's a fun way of playing around with a fantasy of let's fly in the skies.
Mm-hmm.
So there's Fina, and I think she summoned her flying dolphin. I guess not.
She's got a flying dolphin.
Yeah.
You could I don't think you could convince me otherwise that this isn't just a like somebody looked at Final Fantasy IV and was like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to take the airships and the whale and just turn that into a game.
Yeah. So there's her little. I guess it's a flying whale.
Okay.
And that's the ship-to-ship combat right there.
I was going to ask, is there like ship-to-ship combat, and then you can
Yeah.
fight manually?
Yeah, you can control the ship. It gets a little annoying because you have to assign crew members to different parts of the ship, but otherwise it runs pretty well. The intro is just very fun to watch.
Definitely gets you in the spirit of the game.
It does. So yeah, just like a lot of the GameCube ones, you want to. I always do Rumble anyways because it helps me have a feel for what I'm doing with the ship when I'm controlling it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can like not really feel, but you can kind of tell. Okay, there's a wind going this way, or I'm making a sharp turn. So this is where it starts. So you start off with Ica and Vice, and you rescue who turns out to be Fina from the Empire.
Okay.
Because this is where she gets captured in the beginning. So you don't know exactly who she is as a pirate, but you're wondering, wow, she really is quite special. She's a summoning mage.
I'm just getting Star Wars vibes here.
Oh yeah, Final Fantasy always does some Easter egg for Star Wars in its games.
Mm-hmm.
Like they always have Biggs and Wedge in a number of Final Fantasy games. In 6 they have Biggs and Wedge. In 7 they have Biggs and Wedge.
Yeah.
So that's all
and they
fun.
Always die.
The prince.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to skip at this point up to where you actually start playing.
Sure.
So this is where you're playing as Vice.
Oh, okay.
So you see Ica with her boomerang and Vice with his sword. But she also uses boomerang in melee as well. She doesn't just throw it.
So is the combat like a tactical movement sort of game, or is it
It
just
plays like a
turn-based wherever you're standing?
Final Fantasy, but there's things like, are you being attacked from behind? Sneak attack. Is it a sneak attack? And your experience system is you collect gems. Because pirate, collecting treasure is pirate. So you collect gems to level up certain skills. So you get red, different color gems are for advancing certain skills.
Okay, I like the open environment that you can explore. That's good.
So yeah, this is you on board the Imperial battleship trying to get Fina.
Oh, and then it loads into the okay, I see.
So yeah, it's the combat's very much like Final Fantasy. Although it's a little more advanced in Final Fantasy VII because you really hear actual dialogue. Like Ica said, that's fun. Or Vice says actual words.
Yeah, instead of just being really low polygon characters that just do the animations like 7.
Yeah. But they say they're puns in combat.
Yeah, as most JRPGs.
So yeah,
How
the
did you
print.
defeat my soldiers? Very easily. Did you watch? They all died in one hit.
Oh,
Well, fuck that, dude. Okay.
he had the captain take the fall. That's how Alfonso is. So I'm gonna just go get to where you find Fina. Oh, this is Fina waking up.
Oh, look, crystals.
Yeah.
Totally not the staple of every JRPG.
Well, yeah. But it's just kind of interesting here and how instead of XP, you get certain crystals for certain skills.
Mm-hmm. So does the experience that you get, obviously, like as you explained, increases that skill? Can you build characters into specific trees in that way?
You just have to make sure and put together crystals for a certain skill set.
Hmm.
But
Okay.
I generally tend to, so far as I've been playing into Skies of Arcadia, I've been diversifying my skills a little bit because there's just different kinds of encounters and I want to have different kinds of weaknesses. Of course, there's different roles that your characters have. Like, for instance, Aika is the thief character, so I try to make sure her stealing and boomerang skills go up. And with Vice, I try to make sure his sword skills and his destructive magic goes up as well. Fina, I'm trying to figure it out. I think she's close enough to being a white mage and a summoner. So I'm gonna try to go to ship combat if I can.
Yeah, see if you can find it. I'm interested to see. I like the little mini map on the bottom right.
Yeah, don't fall off the edge, Vice.
Can you fall off the can you fall off the edges?
Not really if there's a rail blocking you, but this is flying the ship right here. So you have the floating islands, and you fly up to the island to land on it.
Hmm.
So you want to land, sir, or you...
Oh, there's a barrier. Okay.
Yeah, the Great Falls. So in this case, they landed on your ship. So.
Mm-hmm.
So as you can see, so obviously Aika has obviously leveled up her boomerang skills at this point.
Oh, so the characters move in combat based on who you attack. That's interesting.
Yep. So S move. Oh, you're not gonna use S move.
Thanks, Aika. You're so useful.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna find ship combat here just to show what I'm talking about. All right, so this is where you meet the Imperial ship, Chameleon. Okay. So you're assigning roles on your ship, the Drachma. So who do you want to man the different guns and parts of the ship, like the engines, guns, and so on. But this is you versus the chameleon. It's one of the battleships in the game where you fight against it. So you decide, okay, what kind of gun attackers am I going to use on the ship?
Okay.
So easy focus right here to improve your accuracy of your next shot. So you skip a turn, but you make your next shot actually more accurate and more damaging.
I was kind of hoping that you would move the combat like manually.
Yeah, me too.
That's okay. It's still interesting to see actual like combat because you couldn't really have that in many other games.
So because you did focus right there, you get more damage on your shot.
Okay.
And it's just a little funny how your enemy battleships are way bigger than yours.
Yeah, it's like a schooner versus a full-on frigate.
Yeah. He's gonna broadside you. Just like vice, like 5. So this will be the end of it. Then we'll get on to the news.
Sure.
And catch up on comments. So yeah, you get torpedoes. If you eventually get the upgrade, you can fire torpedoes, and they home in on the enemy ship.
And it just repeats a lot of the camera angles. I see.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So basically, it's Final Fantasy character combat with ships. So I'll end it right here.
Cool.
Okay. So we're back in the studio. So I'm going to go catch up on this thing. Thanks, Josh. Have a nice time at work. And Albo, you're so funny, Albo. Okay, so what else do we have in our comments here? Ikaruga got an Afterlife on GameCube too. Ah, yeah. Almost forgot about that one. So now,
Afterlife?
Yeah, it means they also released it on GameCube after the first version. It's another Sega Dreamcast games that after Sega Dreamcast went under, they had the game on GameCube. There was a Sonic game or two that got the similar treatment as well, where the Sonic game was originally on Dreamcast, but they ended up having a GameCube version.
Okay. So, cool.
So yeah, I'm going to mention later. Some of the Sonic games on Nintendo GameCube are pretty fun as well. So going
like
on.
Sonic 06, the greatest game of all time.
Yeah. So yes, we were talking earlier about when in episode 2 of Whatever Happened to Castlevania, when they would release the Nintendo DS games, and lo and behold, they did. So Castlevania Dominus Collection for PlayStation Store, Nintendo Switch Store, and Steam.
Yeah, I did catch your short about this. This was really cool to hear.
Yeah. So lo and behold, it didn't even take a year after wishing it for it to come true. So yeah. And not only did it have the Nintendo DS games, but it also had a remake of Haunted Castle, the arcade game, on it.
Yeah, and that's one of the original versions of the game, right?
Yeah. It's formatted a little differently to play on all these systems, but yeah.
Sure.
But yeah, Haunted Castle. The music has been remade. So the music is different from what you got in the arcade console.
Okay.
So only the 3D and a few Game Boy titles remain without a remaster at this point, which would be great if they remastered the 3D ones, Curse of Darkness or Lament of Innocence. The next one is, so they also recently released Odalus, The Dark Call. So you play as a Viking instead of, it's based on, the maker of the game said he was inspired by Demon's Crest, which you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
So he said he wanted to make a game like Demon's Crest or Ghosts and Goblins, only you play as a Viking with various weapons trying to fight monsters.
All right.
So this one is, a spiritual successor to Demon's Crest or Ghosts and Goblins, and it's available on Steam.
Sweet.
So yeah, I said that they didn't quite re-release Skies of Arcadia, but this is very similar to Skies of Arcadia, called Sky Oceans Wings for Hire. Somewhat similar plot. You're running the crew of a flying pirate ship.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is not released yet. It's announced for October 10th, 2024. But it features characters in combat, and there's ship-to-ship combat too, similar to how Skies of Arcadia did that. And the demo is available on Steam right now, or on the Nintendo Switch Store. One of those two.
Cool. Since pirates in the sky are basically our theme of the day.
Yeah. So coming up later, we're going to do another recommended retro games episode. These three, the 3 episodes we've done so far, will be a big supercut on next Thursday night, for a premiere for everyone who may have missed the ones because you're not a morning person. It's okay. So with that, we are reaching the end. Anything else you want to add, Albelio?
Well, I will have a excuse me. I will have a review of 2024's The Crow tomorrow. Yeah.
Thanks for biting the bullet for me.
I've never seen The Crow, not in its entirety. I've seen clips here and there, but not the whole thing. So going into this, I was like, cool, let's see how unbiased I can be and, give it a fair shot. No, there was no shot. So that'll be coming out. And then over the next couple weeks at least, Rings of Power Season 2. I'll be tackling episode by episode. And I'll probably be joining Technically Mexican and his fellas on his channel on Sundays.
So put a post up so we can find that stream.
Will do.
Everyone else have a wonderful day, and whatever happened to the game will be coming next Thursday, along with an evening premiere of our previous 3 game recommendations episodes, all in one. So hope you have a wonderful day, and we will see you next Thursday. Same time, same channel.
Thanks for coming.
So as this volume draws to a close, I want to welcome you and thank you for stopping by to give a little visit to the podcast of Whatever Happened to the Game. And hopefully you enjoyed and had a nice time visiting here this evening on Thursday night. And I hope you have a nice time. In the meantime, there are links to both myself, my own channel, and to Albelio's channel, who is a guest on these episodes of the series. And I want to wish you a wonderful evening, and you can stop by the channel and related links in the description. Get some Vampires Rule merchandise, or you can just check out some jokes I have every now and then on Instagram. It should be pretty fun. In the meantime, hope you have a wonderful evening, and until we meet again, farewell.